What's up, guys? We're back. Sundays for the Bilos 2024. We're going to jump into all the ownerships, the stacks, NFL team ownership, everything relevant for this contest to see what you're up against based on the team that you submitted. Bear with me with, the software. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. I downloaded this like 5 minutes ago, but we'll figure it out. Go on the fly. The content's more important than anything else. So let's just jump right in. So this year we got 40 unique players, which is in 25 players of them are at least in one stack with four unique captains. Based on last year, we got more unique players owned, which is great to see. We got more stack players, which is great to see, and less captains, which I think will make sense once we jump into it. But yeah, then we got 24 teams competing this year, which is a little bit up from last year, which is nice. So, we'll increase that pot. Only one team was completely faded, which is the Packers. Last year there were three teams faded, so there's more viable teams this year. People are taking players from more teams, which is great to see. And yep, someone had a Steelers player. Not going to reveal that in the video though. You're going to have to jump in to see all the teams in the spreadsheet after if you want to see all the individual teams and who the culprit was. I'm sure some people have some ideas. Maybe you'll be right, maybe you'll be wrong. I don't know. And also, no player was stacked more than six times. So out of 24 teams, the most players stacked was six. So very interesting. We got a lot of diversity, which will make it interesting. So let's continue then to the Super Bowl odds. So the framework of how I'm going to do this is based on the team's odds to make the Super Bowl by Vegas. I'm not using my own opinion. I'm not thinking what I think is going to happen. If you think using Vegas is a bad, barometer for measuring this, then by all means, go bet, go make some money, send me the receipt after, show me how wrong it is. But for the time being, we're going to go by Vegas. So looking at the Vegas odds, the highest chance to make the Super Bowl is really going to be the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Niners, and the Cowboys. Everyone else is kind of looking like a long shot. And then obviously something else to consider is that the Ravens and Niners are playing one less game since they're on bye if they make the Super Bowl. But those are really the five teams that we're looking at, and it looks like based on the odds, the Ravens and the Niners, are the strong teams to make the Super Bowl. So these are some low owned threats. So these are some players that came in low owned that could be league winners based on the team that they're on and their likeliness to make the Super Bowl and also their production. So we got Ayuk and Debo that are both only owned once. Purdy's only owned four times. So there's only a single Mahomes bullet, a single Flowers bullet, and the Ravens are likely to make the Super Bowl. A little Hurts Brown, obviously injury concern there, but they're only owned once. And Gibbs is also owned three times, could be a big player. So these are players that you probably thought, oh, I don't think they'll be as owned, sneak them in, get them on lower ownership. Turns out a lot of people kind of probably thought the same thing and they're not as low owned as you'd want. A big one for me is Swift, owned 10 times, 42% of teams. Like I said, this probably has something to do with, the Hurts AJ Brown injuries and just needing to get an eagle and want to take Swift. But 42% of teams for Swift for me seems like a lot. The other one's honestly not that crazy in terms of being over owned. I think it was pretty sensible, what everyone ended up taking. But these are also some players that probably would have liked to see at a lower ownership if you were to have taken them. Let's jump right into the ownership then. So this is just every player, how many times they were taken, and then the percent that they are owned from the field. So to no one's surprise, Lamb and CMC absolutely dominating. Neither of them getting to 100% ownership, but very very chalky plays that makes sense. And then at tight end and quarterback, it's also pretty interesting. We have Allen and Lamar, which are pretty highly owned, and then there's Kelsey and Njoku that are pretty highly owned. So if you didn't take those QBs or that tight end, you're looking at some good leverage. And then also just a bunch of players that were one off. So if you have one of these guys, you're really rooting for them, and just tons of players that are only owned by one person. This is really the bread and butter of it all. So the stock summary. So this is every single stock that was taken in this tournament. So really, really big and surprising to me is having Lamb and Dak as the most stacked option. I think if you took Lamb and Dak, this is very upsetting to see. I mean, if we're being objective, this isn't, the best stack to get. The Niner stacks are probably objectively stronger, but to have this come in as, the clearest highest stack, not ideal because you're playing a team that's only 4.5 odds to make the Super Bowl. You typically would have wanted less than that, but overall just really spread out stacks. It's really cool to see. If you have any stack, honestly, even Cowboys stack here, you're still looking pretty good if they're the team that you need and they're the ones that go to the Super Bowl. Everything's really spread out. CMC only being stacked five times is kind of crazy to me. Only three with Purdy. I think if you have that stack, you got to be pretty happy. the Bills come in, I guess, where we expect them to come in, but you have to be happy, I guess, if you've Alan Diggs, or Alan Cook. Bills are in a really good spot, in a smash spot in the first game, and obviously likely to make the Super Bowl as well. And then these are all just one-off stacked. I'll pat myself on the back for Lamar and Flowers. I'm really happy to have the only Raven stack we saw before. They're a strong favorite to make it out of the AFC, so I'm happy to have that stack. Crazy that there's two Njoku stacks. I think if you were taking the Njoku stack, you for sure thought you would get that as a unique play, but it wasn't. And then also very interesting here, we have two Chiefs stack, one Mahomes Kelsey, one Pacheco Rice. So no overlap on the Chiefs. If the Chiefs are hot, you are going to be looking at that other team, praying that your stack's doing better. Really interesting to see a Pacheco Rice stack. It's pretty cool. All right, so I'm just gonna go. This one's pretty boring. Let's just go over it fast. Captain ownership, CMC, CD Lamb, Snooze Fest. Let's move on. So this is just showing quickly, not that much to talk about, but just the captain plus stack. So this is the column you want to be looking at, and this is what percent of this player is either stacked or captained. So it makes sense. CMC 79. Honestly, maybe even that's low for CMC. I don't even know, but we weren't gonna expect anything less, that's for sure. Lamb 50% makes sense. Again, Dak like pretty high for Dak to be the third highest player that's captained or stacked if you have him. Um, and then jumping to the next and final slide here, we just got the team ownership. So this is pretty much an overall summary of every team, what percent owned their players are, how stacked they are, and captain. So this is really a really good test to see, what teams you went in on and then what ownership you got out of them. So, story of the video has been Dallas being over owned, and it really shows here. Dallas coming in as not that much as the highest owned team, but the highest stacked team, pretty strong captain team. So looking at this, you would think the Cowboys are a very strong favorite and that's why they're the most owned, but they're really not. So I think if you got Dallas, not ideal, but not in the worst spot either. What else is interesting to call out is, the Bills are not crazy owned, the Chiefs are not crazy owned, even the Niners by their standards are not crazy owned. It's relatively flat. Again, as I mentioned before, pretty stoked to have the only Baltimore stack as they're pretty strong favorites. And then again, if you stacked, the Lions or you stacked the Rams or you stacked even the Browns or the Texans, you're obviously looking good if those advance. You probably knew that going in. And that's pretty much it. Under this video, I'm going to attach the spreadsheet so you can look at all the teams, call it anything you want to call out. But thank you for everyone for submitting. I really enjoyed doing this. It's a lot of fun. Look forward to doing it next year. And good luck, everyone. May the best team win. And go Cowboys. I love the respect you guys have shown for them.